Good morning, everybody. My name is Richard Knudson. I'm with Professional Tutors of America. Again, I do appreciate all of you joining us today. I'm going to be hosting our webinar, and again, thank you to those who have attended. Just to let you know, we have set your microphones to mute. If you do have questions that come up during our webinar, use the chat feature. All you have to do is send a chat to everyone, and then we'll all be able to see your questions. I may stop intermittently so that I can answer some of those questions, and we'll also have time at the end to take some more questions, but do make sure that your microphone is on mute so we don't hear everything going on in your office. Today, we're going to be talking about winning teams as a unique emancipation program. I am a school counselor here with Professional Tutors of America. I have a school counseling credential, and I've been in the field of education for just over 10 years, and I am excited to share all this information with you. So, again, any questions, do make sure they go into the chat box. And also, we will be sending this webinar out to you by email sometime today once we have concluded. So you'll get a chance to look over things as well. You'll get an opportunity to keep the slides should you want to review them at a later time. So, this is our mission statement here at Professional Tutors of America. I promise it's the only slide I'm going to read to you in full. And it basically states that every child possesses unique talents. Our mission is to help each child discover and develop these talents along with the child's self-esteem by providing praise, encouragement, guidance, and superior academic instruction. Our program will result in the child becoming a more confident, responsible, and productive adult in our society. What I'm hoping you recognize here is that we are all educators. We believe that the child has unique potential, and we want to help them maximize that potential and become productive members of society. That's our main goal here, is education first. So today what we're going to be talking about is we're going to start off dealing with today's youth. And by that, I'm discussing the different types of situations that today's youth may run into, which are unique to this generation. Then we've got our Winning Teams program as a unique emancipation program and how it can directly affect the youth and what situations they're dealing with. We'll discuss the whole child approach and how that's important to make sure that the child develops fully. And then we're going to discuss how you can get started in any of our programs if you should have that interest. So today's youth. It's a very different world than when you or I were growing up. 10, 20 years ago, things were exceptionally different, dealing with things such as computers, cell phones, the internet. Ease of access is everywhere. It's very easy to get information in the palm of your hand, quite literally. So students today, what used to take 20 minutes to research, they can now get at the click of a finger. It takes them a couple of seconds. They can get access to whatever information they would like. However, you also have to think about the lack of ease that many of our foster youth may face, whether it's because of instability in the home, lack of financial security. They don't necessarily have the same tools that current students do. And that really does have an impact on their education. There are also significant generational differences. Now, this is important both to educators and to those working with the youth. Generation X, which is what many of us fall into, is those born between 1965 and 1982. Those are the individuals who, based on being told to do something, were more likely to do it, provided that there was just a simple end result, such as you want to pass this class because you want to graduate high school. That was a significant impact on why we might do something if we were following Generation X. However, students today, foster youth, are generally in the Generation Y, and often it's called Generation WHY ? Sometimes they'll also refer to it as Generation Z. Generation Z is the newest one. Those are the students born after the year 2000, and both Generation Y and Generation Z are much more egocentric. It is really all about them. And the reason that's important is they need personal motivation. They're not going to simply take on a task because they've been advised to do so by an adult. They're not going to find relevance in something simply because there's an end result which could or could not be important. They need it personally relevant. It has to matter directly to them. Think about the what's in it for me factor when we're dealing with our Generation Y and Z youth. Now, the reason that's exceptionally important when we talk about foster youth is that foster youth already have some unstable situations. They have difficulties in school. They have difficulties with peer relationships. Their home life is not something they can count on as being consistent. Therefore, they are that much more egocentric because they're the only individuals within their lives who they can count on. that makes it exceptionally difficult to reach them, and also explains a little bit as to why they have so many challenges academically as well as in the personal social realm. So a couple of quick facts, and these are probably things that you're familiar with if you're involved in the foster youth field, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But what I do want to point out is a couple of key things. When we're looking at students, look at these two facts here. Grade 11, their proficiency in English and math is exceptionally low. 20% in English, 5% in math. Now, those are the two main areas that are focused on in California here with our high school exit exam, and we can see that with proficiencies that low, it is no wonder that 49% of foster youth graduate from high school or receive their GED. That's a startling figure and something that we'd like to change because, of course, the way to get access to additional resources after they turn 18 is to have that high school diploma in hand, to have that first step completed. Also notice our facts here. When intervention programs are provided, high school graduation rates increase to 71%. Now that would also include students who receive a GED, but you can see a drastic improvement in overall in percentage as far as when intervention programs are provided. So that's a very important feature, and especially with our Generation Y and Z students, those intervention programs have to make personally relevant sense to them. They have to see an end result that they actually care about. So, how do we support youth and teens during those challenging years? That's the real question, and that's what we're hoping we can provide some insight to today. We've identified a couple of concerns, but now I want to talk about our Winning Teens program. This is that Emancipation program that we do at, and this is something that we do on a regular basis to help youth be successful. Our program consists of 6 major areas: character development, career exploration, college guidance, exam prep, financial literacy, and life skills. Each of those has its own slide, so I'm going to hit on those in more detail, but I just want you to see how comprehensive that program is. The character development component, we use a book called Success for Teens, and the nice thing about this is it's written by teens and for teens. So the stories are direct from teenagers' mouths. You want to hit the personal relevance factor. It's very easy when it's teenagers talking to teenagers. It's no longer an adult talking to a youth, where the adult is, again, another possible inconsistent field within the child's life. It is more of another youth who has gone through similar experiences, sharing how they overcame those. And you can see the character development factors as far as decision-making, dealing with impulse control, good habits, investing in their future, and really goal setting. That's one of the most important things, is helping them find personally relevant goals and then developing a plan to achieve those. So we hit that with the character development component. Career exploration is the next factor within our Winning Teens program, and of course, career exploration is important because we want youth to understand not only how they can be employed, but areas they might find interest. We want them to learn to love their employment. We want them to be well prepared for what career readiness really means, because it's not just sending out an application and hoping to get a job. There's a lot more that goes into career readiness, and so we help them explore that from the start process, understanding their interests, all the way to the end of writing a good resume, turning in applications, learning about apprenticeships. So again, a very comprehensive approach to career exploration. Next is college guidance. Many foster youth do want to get access to post-secondary education, so we're there to help assist them with understanding the post-secondary world, the different types of schools, whether it's vocational, whether it's an associate's degree, a 4-year degree. We help them understand the different impacts each of those degrees can have. Also notice that we do discuss that financial aid piece, and I focus on that because the FAFSA is a very complicated process. That's the pre-application for federal student aid. Every student must complete that if they intend to get access to federal loans or grants. Grants, of course, are the free money, and there's also many scholarship opportunities that students get access to by completing the FAFSA, but it's a daunting process. And if they don't have consistent adults in their life, they may not have somebody there to assist them. But because we have credentialed school counselors working in our Winning Teens program, they're going to get somebody who knows that process intimately. They're going to be able to help them complete that FAFSA form. A brief story: one of my counselors actually was working with a foster youth. She assisted the foster youth with applying for financial aid, with better understanding what that process looked like. The foster youth ended up getting a significant amount of scholarships. Then, after she got those scholarships and grants, the counselor assisted her with how to manage those scholarships and grants so that she could maximize her educational experience. The reason I share that with you is simply because having a counselor in your corner can really be of assistance, not just for foster youth, but for any youth. And we've seen that with the youth we've already worked with. Exam preparation, the next factor. Of course, in California, we have our high school exit exam, and if you do not complete that, you do not get a high school diploma. You may get a certificate of completion, but it does not mean the same thing. And so we can assist with the high school exit exam as well as all of the other trade and ability tests that may be taken. And what we focus on is test preparation. We focus on different skills, stress management. Again, it's helping them be prepared for how to take tests. Not just the material, which they should be getting some in school, but also how they can approach test taking to be more successful in the long term, because ultimately they're going to continue to take tests, whether they're pen and paper or whether they're life challenges. We're going to prepare them for how to deal with those types of stressful situations. Financial literacy is our next component. Of course, we want them to understand money management, their credit score, creating a budget. These are things they carry with them through their whole life. The credit score does not disappear when you turn 18. Instead, it's something that they take with them all the way into adulthood. So we want them to understand how their credit score can be impacted. And of course, life skills. We use the KC Life Skills program, which is probably familiar to those who are in the foster care industry. And we want teens to learn how to live independently. Because once they turn 18, while they may still have access to transitional services up until 21 or 22, which is a wonderful thing thanks to AB 12, they may not have those independent living skills fully developed. So we can help them better understand, again, stress management with peer relations, how to live independently, create a budget, buy a car, rent an apartment. Those are all important pieces to living on their own, and we can help focus with them. We also provide a number of assessments, and I bring this information up so you can see that there is data that we can pull based for your students. We can determine their start points, and we can create good endpoints in mind. It helps with goal setting, and it's also a way for you to track some of their progress based on the assessments that we provide. In our Winning Teens program, we have what we call achievement counselors, and I want you to understand what that is, because this is not just a volunteer, it's not just somebody who's in college. Just as with the tutors that we use here at Professional Tutors of America, our achievement counselors are professionals. They must have an active school counseling credential and a master's degree in educational counseling and guidance, which puts them on par with their public school counterparts. The public school counselor is going to have the exact same qualifications. One key feature I do want you to note: a maximum caseload of 60 students per achievement counselor. Now, that may sound like a fairly reasonable number of students, and I want you to keep that number in mind. And we'll give you some facts in a second, which will really show you exactly why that's such a stunning number for us to have. Here's a picture of one of our achievement counselors in action. She's actually talking with her student, and I hope you notice that the student is on the computer. We do use video chat for our Winning Teens program. We found that students really do like that interactive feature. It keeps them in their world, which is the technology-laden world. They still get that face-to-face contact. They're not geographically limited, and it gives us an opportunity to continually relate to them in a medium they're comfortable with. So this is how we interact with all of our students when we do our Winning Teens program, and we found it very successful. Also, I mentioned keeping you abreast of how the student is doing. We have monthly progress reports, and the reason I bring that up is we're not here to do things by ourselves. We're not taking work away from the public school counselors or from you. We're here as a collaborative team member. So we're going to provide monthly progress reports so you can see exactly how your student is doing. You'll get updates. You'll see what they're working on. You'll better understand the different areas in which we might have recommendations, and it allows for continual collaboration. As you can see here, we've created this little graphic just to show you that it really is a case of communication and trust combining with the student, with the parents, with the counselors, with the social workers, with us, really to benefit the student as a whole. We really want to see the maximum amount of benefit for that student. So let me tell you a little bit about the whole child approach. That is our Winning Teens program, but we believe that there's more to a student than just what our Winning Teens program can provide. The ASCA model is something that is relevant within the counselor field. I'm a member of the California Association of School Counselors, and ASCA is the American School Counselors Association. Any comprehensive school counseling program is based on the ASCA model. The ASCA model discusses the whole child, which means there's the academic component, there's the personal social component, and there's the vocational component. The concept is, if you create a program which addresses every one of those areas, you will actually develop the whole child. So when they are 18 and no longer in mandatory education, they have had every one of those areas develop significantly enough that they can make an impact on society. Now, I mentioned before that our achievement counselors have a nice ratio of 60 students per counselor. In California specifically, school counselors are sometimes a little bit more expendable in the public school system, which is unfortunate. There have been some districts that went so far as to take away all counselors and only use guidance technicians because they didn't see the relevance of the school counselor. Now, some tragic events have happened recently which have had a little bit of impact in the legislature, but still, the most recent studies that we have, the public school average student counselor ratio is 1,018 students per counselor. Now that is an average, so you could get more, but you could also get less. But I want you to notice the big difference between 1,018 students per counselor and our achievement counselors having 60 students per counselor. The reason that's important is if those public school counselors were to meet with every one of their students during the school year and all they did was counsel, they could devote 1 hour and 20 minutes of time to each of their students per year. Now, that is not a whole lot of time to work with a student, and it also really takes away from their ability to take that comprehensive approach because they only have a small amount of time. What tends to happen is that they work with the high-need students, but high need has to be visible as well. And many foster youth withdraw from that visibility because they already have so much chaos in other portions of their life that they don't want to be noticed elsewhere. So they may not be the visible high-need students that get the attention of their school counselors. There's also what we call the 2 Sigma problem. Now, I'm hoping you noticed that our Winning Teams program is really geared towards the vocational and the personal social aspect. But there's also that academic aspect. And when we do touch on the exam preparation for the youth that we're working with in Winning Teams, there's what's called the 2 Sigma problem with education. Benjamin Bloom created Bloom's taxonomy, which is another big word for the education field. Bloom's taxonomy discusses how learning, you can take a bottom-up approach and really deal with the most simplest forms of learning, and then you can address higher order needs later. So basically you can just deal first with taking in the information or reviewing the information before you get to understanding, applying, and synthesizing information. In his study, what Bloom found was that there was a big difference between students who were tutored one-to-one or taught one-to-one versus those students who were taught in a whole class environment. I want you to see down here, this is the easy statistic to remember. Individually tutored students performed better than 98% of their group instructed peers. That means that receiving that one-to-one attention was beneficial for all students. But you can imagine with the foster youth getting one-to-one attention from a professional adult who can help them academically, that's really going to make a big impact. We do have a tutoring program here at Professional Tutors of America. The nice thing is there's a lot of options for it. It is always one-to-one, and we can go to your location or we can provide online tutoring. But we cover all subjects and all grade levels. We can include pre and post assessments so you can actually measure growth. There's always feedback and the ability for progress reports and attendance checks on how your student is doing. So again, we're really taking that whole child approach to heart here at Professional Tutors of America by providing not only our Winning Teams program, but our tutoring program as well. Another nice feature is that we're what's called a non-public agency. Non-public agencies can provide special education services for youth in California, and we're one of the only certified non-public agencies in California that can provide one-to-one specialized academic instruction in the home. What that means is your foster youth who have a learning disability actually can get a credentialed special education teacher to provide them instruction in the home along with our Winning Teams program. So, taking action. How can we get a hold of these kinds of programs? What can we do? We have what's called our tutor request form. And our tutor request form will actually be emailed to you along with a copy of this webinar. So you'll all have this in your hands. But this is basically how you could request services for your students. Students' information goes in this top portion here. This is for your contact information so we can get a hold of you either with questions or to do confirmations. And this is how you can actually select the kinds of programs that you're interested in. You'll see the costs right there in front of you. We have our hourly live tutoring, we have our hourly online tutoring, and then we have our counselor-based programs over here. Now, when I called it an emancipation program, I do want to be clear that we're not talking about youth emancipating from their families and trying to become independent too early. What we're really talking about is that old term where emancipation meant a student who is aging out of the foster care system. We want foster youth to be well prepared when they turn 18 And while they may have access to transitional services, we want them to be prepared because there's more onus on the student or on the youth to take advantage of those services after they turn 18. So we want them to be well prepared for what they may encounter. You can see here, you can order just tutoring, you can order just our counselor-based mentoring program, which is only $125 a month for everything that's included, or you have a combination package, which is really the best deal simply because you get weekly tutoring and you get those weekly meetings with the credentialed school counselor. So you get that whole child support from Professional Tutors of America. So this form, as I said, will be included with the webinar when we send it out. That's my contact information, and I want to provide that to you in the case that you do want to get in touch with me to ask specific questions offline, or if you have an interest in learning a little bit more about the different programs we have. Our website is listed there, and it's got a lot of information for you to check out. And of course, you can also email me any little questions you might have. If you have a specific student or unique situation you wanted to get some insight on, feel free to email me that question. I'm happy to try and provide some assistance. So that does conclude our webinar at this point, but if there are questions, I haven't seen any pop up in the chat window so far, but if you do have any questions, you're welcome to type those into the chat window, and I'll be happy to answer those online for the next few minutes. I am also going to unmute your microphones in the case that you'd like to rather speak the question. The chat box will allow everybody to see it. We'll keep it as a record, but you can say your question out loud. All right, well, if there are no questions, and again, I want to thank you all for attending today and for participating in our webinar. This will be emailed out, and if you do have additional questions, you're welcome to get in contact with me by phone or email. I hope that you all have an excellent day.